Education moves too slowly, and I get why. Education is about people and change is uncomfortable. Some of us say we love that discomfort. Some of us run towards it. We get really hyped up about change and super optimistic. We tell a good story, and we draw others in. Some willingly, some because there's just no stopping us. We have ideas, we have plans, strategic plans, and we want action. Change occurs when we implement finite initiatives, like when we draft a new curriculum or publish a new report card. But learning isn't actually about change. It's about transformation. Transformation occurs through a series of changes in a portfolio of iterations, where we're reinventing something based on a vision for the future. So while dealing with one change, and we know there's actually many more than one in BC education right now, while dealing with one change can be difficult and frustrating, these changes are part of a transformation story, and we are learning our way through it. Because we must learn in order to grow this system. And learning takes patience and time. That's the rub. Some people just don't have the time. I'd like to introduce you to Molly. Molly graduates next year, so she's pretty much done waiting for us to have fully embedded inquiry as a way of being in our classrooms. Assessment for learning was a rubric she highlighted once for a history paper. But don't worry about her too much, because she knows that her science teacher likes everything underlined in red, and her English teacher loves a good rhetorical question. Now think of a school that's full of kids like Molly. Schools where the kids are mostly not getting into trouble and who come from mostly supportive families. Dig a little bit closer as the research is done, and you will see that typically speaking, these kids have high anxiety, high depression, low interest, low motivation, low self-esteem, low effort, and low intellectual engagement. Now, the funny thing about BC is that we typically outperform almost any other jurisdiction in the world when it comes to internationally recognized and respected assessments. And yet, our students are typically not very intellectually engaged. We need to move beyond this to something more, something better. And in doing so, we must learn. We need to ask what if. When I came to Delta about a year ago, I was tasked with making an agriculture program. I started with a maker lab, a contact at Kwantlen University, a supportive district with a bold district vision, some great colleagues, some really enthusiastic teachers. And I started with a really supportive community full of farmers in Delta. The funny thing, though, about starting an agriculture program is that parents didn't actually want their kids to really be in it. Farmers don't make any money. There's no future in farming. What about law school? What about being an engineer? From Frank Bly, I learned to get ahead of the narrative, because as Henry Ford had said, if we had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. Farmers every day do the work of agrologists, botanists, chemists, biologists, insect specialists, marketers, entrepreneurs, accountants, ecologists. The list goes on and on. Agriculturally related jobs make up over 1 in 8 jobs in Canada, and it brings in over $100 billion to our GDP. But that's not actually the story. The story is that if we don't figure out how to create and produce food, energy, and water in sustainable ways, then all of this is for nothing anyway. This is why I'm in education. This is why we do the work we do. Because we want 100% of students to cross that stage with dignity, purpose, options, and curiosity. And if this is our collective goal, then we are looking at transformation. And we don't have to start with a blank page. There's already so many of us in the room and so many beyond these walls who are doing amazing work, bridging research to practice. Because the research is very clear. The OECD principles of learning tell us that we need to design learning environments and learning where students are at the center, and where we pay attention to the social nature of learning, where emotions are integral, where we recognize individual differences, where we stretch all students and use assessment for learning, building horizontal connections. These are all the design factors in a deep learning environment. These factors are also actually reflected in the First People's principles of learning, which show us how to move forward in wise and strong ways. What makes these ways wise and strong? These are the principles of people who have survived and attempted physical and cultural genocide. Thank you. And we are the people employed in the system that was tasked with killing the Indian child. So these are the principles that we used in designing something called Farm Roots.
Farm Roots is part of a new story in Delta. A story about breaking out of the classroom and taking our learning to the land. Every second day, you could come here to Boundary Bay and learn about growing food and all the science, business, and environmental issues connected to that process.
What if we got to come here to do school? What if doing school meant designing and running a farm?
What if it meant inventing solutions to old problems? Like, how can we save the bee population? Could I build a greenhouse that looks after my plants?
What if we got to start a business, an actual business in school?
What if I could get the certifications I need to work on a farm and have it count towards graduation?
What if I could become an expert at something I care about, like food security,
Policy, urban farming,
organic foods,
the environment.
before I even graduate from high school?
This is about building the world and our education with our own hands.
There's a new school in Delta.
And we get to make it.
I'm making myself very vulnerable in showing you that clip because Farm Roots is just very new. It's only just begun this September. And I'm showing it to you to prove the point that no attempt at something better is ever just an attempt, because every attempt is brave, because every attempt requires risk and vulnerability. So be courageous in your classrooms, be courageous in your schools, with your colleagues, your learners, your parent communities, your office staffs, your EAs, everyone, because 100% of our students deserve a brave and resolute you. Thank you.